Hi, I'm Trent Taylor from Teach It Forward. First thing I want to say to you is thank you very much for reading my blogs and giving me the great feedback. It's your feedback that actually inspires me to do some of these videos. What I'm going to do today is the time target. I have just written a blog around time management. There's no such thing as time management. It's all about people management. And when I'm dealing with my clients, on a weekly basis, they really have challenges with how do I fit everything in? Why do I carry this overwhelm or anxiety? Geez, if only I could get more time. The reality is we can't get any more time, but what we can get is better at choosing. And so the time target for me is like a filter. It's a filter to help us determine what's urgent and what's important. So let me show this to you. Now, this is not my own IP. This is a derivative of the Stephen Covey from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He had it in a quadrant. I just preferred to communicate it through a target. Now, you don't need to know anything too much about archery or darts, but what we do know, what most people can know about those areas, is that the closer you get to the centre of the target, is obviously you get more points. The same thing here in the time target. The more we do activities closer to the centre of this target, the more effective, more successful, more relaxed, the more happy that we will be. So let me just position a couple of things around this time target. What's important for you to grasp is that when it comes to this time target, when we're using this filter, you need to remember that it's what's urgent for you or what's important for you in your role in the business. So let's just say that you're the CEO of your business. So when we're going through this information, the time target, you've got to think about what's urgent for you as a CEO, not what's urgent for the company or what's urgent for the team members, but what's urgent for you. What's important for your role and what you're paid to do. Okay, so just remember, it's all about you. This is a target for you. So to know where you are in the target and to know how to get the most benefit out of using this, we ask ourselves two very simple questions, and they are, is it urgent or is it important? So let's start with the outer ring, okay? So the outer ring here, we only get small points here. So how do you know when you're in the outer ring here? This is when you are doing things that are not urgent and not important, okay? Don't so much worry if you can't see the writing so much. You can hear it and translate it for yourself. Now, when you're doing something like a not urgent or not important, we call this zone the distraction zone. So if you are a CEO of your business, distraction zone activities might be you're always checking your emails. It could be that you're on your phone and your mate's organising your golf game on the weekend. A distraction could be that you're driving into work and then you see the guy next door and you start talking to him and you're blabbering on. All of these things suck up a lot of your time. If you add all these little distraction moments, in a day it could be half an hour. In a week it could be 3 hours. For a lot of people that's half a day. The next area that I wanted to explain to you is what we call the urgent and not important. Again, so it's not important to you as a CEO, but the distinction here is that it is urgent. Now, we call this the delusion zone. And people say, oh, that's probably a good place to be if it's urgent. What the distinction I need you to get here with the delusion zone is that it's urgent for somebody else, not for you. It's not important for you for it to be done. But somebody has come into your life via a phone call, via coming into your space and saying, hey, this has happened, can you help me? And you drop everything and you go and help them, or you go and make a phone call for them, or whatever it may be. Whatever this activity is, it takes you away from the core purpose of what you're there in the context of the business for. So you're there to do CO, you had the time allotted to do budgets for 2 hours, someone comes halfway through, there's some disaster, and then you took it on as your own problem. You've gone and attended to that, and all of a sudden you've lost time on your core thing. Now, How do you know if you've had a day of delusion? You know you've had a day of delusion when you've started maybe at 8 o'clock in the morning, you finish at 6 at night, you've worked flat out, you've barely even had time for lunch. You get to the end of the day and you go, what have I done? What did I actually achieve? That's when you know that you're in delusion. What that means is that you've been working hard, but for somebody else and doing not important stuff. The next area, okay, is called urgent and important. Beautiful writing here. And this is what we call the demand zone. Now the demand zone this is quite a good place to be, but it's not a sustainable place. You can't be there for long, long periods of time. People that do typically become, very anxious, depressed, addicts of some sort. But this is a good place to be for a certain part of your week, because it is urgent for you now as a CEO, and what it basically means is that there is something time-based. So you might have a tender or a proposal to submit to a large company, and it has a deadline by end of Thursday. So therefore, it's making it urgent. So those last few days, maybe if it's not complete, or you still have to refine it, it makes it urgent because of that time deadline. And it's important because if you get that tender or proposal out for that large company, that could really greatly benefit your role as a CEO and the company. So urgent and important is a good place to be, and that's what we call a demand zone. But this is a very high pressure place. This is where you're working extremely hard, extremely intense, heavily focused on what you need to do, but you can only be there for a certain period of time. The other, the place in the middle where we get the highest points, so relating back to that archery or darts mentality, this is when you're doing things that are not urgent, yet they are important. Okay, and we call this the zone. If you've ever played sport at any sort of level, and there's that word they use, it's in the zone. It describes a feeling or a period of time when you're producing the results you want to produce, but you're doing it in an effortless way. It's not hard, it's not a struggle. You're just in the zone and you're doing some great things. And that's what it's like also in the workplace. And so when you're in the zone, you are doing activities that are not urgent, but they're critically important. Some examples of those, you might think this is funny, but as a CEO, it's probably a good idea to have a good health. So exercise is a good thing. It would be what we call a zonal activity. Okay, it's not urgent that you do it. I mean, you don't have to exercise at 6 in the morning. You don't have to exercise at 12. You need to do the exercise at some stage. So it's not urgent, but it's really important for your health. Budgets, knowing your numbers, reviewing your financials. It's not urgent that you do it, but geez, it's important to do it. So I could go on forever and ever, which I said I only promised to do for 10 minutes, but hopefully you can see that when things come into your life, when phone calls happen, even making the choice of answering the phone, sometimes answering the phone is a distraction. Sometimes it's delusion. Sometimes you need to do it. If you can see on your phone who's calling and it's someone that's in an area you need to do, well then it's probably going to be up there. Okay? Just think about the activities that you take on, because you've only got a certain amount of hours a day. You need to rest, you need to live. When you're working, work. As Jim Rohn said, when you work, work. When you play, play. When you're going to work, use this as a filter. Go, is this activity that this person wants me to do, or what I need to do today, is this in the zone? Is this demand? Is this delusion, distraction? Most people have 80% of their time here, 20% there. Successful people flip that around. They have 20% of their time in the zone and demand, and 80% there. The interesting thing is, if you do 80% of the work here, important stuff, that's not urgent, but important stuff, and you do that 80% of you through your week, all of this stuff washes away, because it doesn't ever come up. If you do the stuff, you get proactive, get things done in advance, you're clear, there's no need to take on anyone else's role. So the time target has worked great for many, many clients. There's actually some practical strategies and things I can give you for this. If you're interested, please email me. But I just wanted to make sure that I shared the time target. Read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey for another reference point. But I hope it's given you some education, some support. And this is the time target. I'm Trent Taylor, and I'll see you in the next video, and thanks for reading my blog.